first time I met Carl, he was 67, a quiet man, the kind who still opens the door for his wife and never complains, even when the weight on his shoulders grows too heavy. He sat in my office with his hands folded, his eyes tired but trying to hold on to something dignity, maybe. He cleared his throat and said, "Doc, I'm doing everything I can, but something's gone quiet inside me." It wasn't his voice that struck me. It was what he wasn't saying, that he felt like a shadow of the man he used to be, that he still loved his wife but had stopped reaching for her, that the mornings didn't start with drive or purpose anymore, just a slow crawl through the motions. I've seen that look in more men than I can count. Retired teachers, welders, coaches, grandfathers, all asking a version of the same question, just without the words. Is this it? Am I fading away? I'm Dr. Thomas Leighton. I've spent more than 4 decades listening to men like Carl, men who've carried families, fixed what was broken, stood tall through hardship, and now, quietly, feel like they're being left behind by their own bodies. And I'll tell you what I told Carl. There's nothing shameful about slowing down, but there's also nothing noble about surrendering to it without a fight. Not when there are simple, natural ways to give your body back the spark it still remembers. Now, you might not expect me to say this, but some of the most powerful allies we have for energy, performance, and vitality are nuts. Simple, humble nuts you've walked past 1,000 times at the grocery store. Not pills, not potions, not another supplement gathering dust on your shelf. If this message speaks to you even a little, type 1 below. If you're unsure, type 0. Either way, thank you for listening. Sometimes just opening the door to a new idea is the beginning of healing. Let me tell you about a man named Tom. He was 68, salt and pepper hair, former Marine, proud husband. He came in slumped, over not from pain, but from defeat. "Doc," he said, "I want to be with my wife, but it's like my body's not answering the call anymore." That's not an uncommon thing to hear, and most of the time it's not about desire. It's about blood flow. That's why I told Tom to start with walnuts. Now, walnuts may not look like much, but they are, quite frankly, champions of circulation. You see, inside every walnut is a powerful amino acid called L-arginine. Your body uses it to create nitric oxide D compound that tells your blood vessels to relax and open up. When you were younger, this process happened on its own, but after 60, the supply begins to fade. The result? Poor blood flow. And without good blood flow, everything suffers: your energy, your clarity, and yes, your performance in bed. Walnuts help turn the lights back on. A small handful each evening can begin to shift things. I've had men tell me they started waking up with stronger morning erections. They felt sharper, more grounded, not euphoric, not like a magic trick, just right, like their body had finally found its rhythm again. That's the beauty of real food. It doesn't shock your system, it reminds it. And walnuts rich in omega-3 also calm inflammation and support your heart, which is the engine behind every part of a man's vitality. But one nut, while powerful, is only one part of the story. A few years ago, I met Richard. He was 72, fit, still working part-time, but deeply frustrated. "I'm there in my head," he told me, "but my body's letting me down." He'd tried medications, but they left him feeling dizzy and disconnected. What he wanted was something natural, something that respected the way his body was built. That's when I introduced him to pistachios. Now, most folks think of pistachios as nothing more than a snack, but research out of Turkey showed that pistachios can dramatically improve erectile function, firmer erections, longer duration, and not surprisingly greater satisfaction. They're also loaded with arginine, like walnuts, but with a twist. Pistachios bring in powerful antioxidants and plant sterols. These help lower bad cholesterol and improve the flexibility of your blood vessels too, things that matter a lot when your goal is both performance and stamina. Richard added just a handful of unsalted pistachios to his lunch every day. And 2 weeks in, he called me. "Doc," he said, "it's like my body remembered what to do. I'm not pushing, I'm just responding." That right there is the goal. Not forcing your body to be something it's not, but supporting it so it can return to what it always was. If you're still with me, and these stories are starting to make you see things a little differently, I invite you to stay close. and maybe even consider subscribing. Because I share these reflections not as theories, but as lived truths from real men, real lives, and real change. Now let's talk about something I believe every man over 60 should hear. A nutrient that most have never even heard of, but one that can quietly restore your hormonal foundation from the inside out. Let me tell you about Gary. Gary was 66, still ran his own business, still laughed easily. But behind the jokes, there was a fatigue he couldn't shake. He said, "Doc, I feel like a guy who's doing all the right things, but not getting the spark back." When I asked him if he'd ever had his selenium levels checked, he just blinked. Most men haven't, and that's a problem. Selenium is a mineral your body can't make. It has to come from what you eat, and it plays a critical role in testosterone production, prostate health, and overall energy levels. That's where Brazil nuts come in. Just 1 or 2 Brazil nuts a day can supply your body with all the selenium it needs to optimize hormones. That's not speculation. That's grounded biology. Gary started taking 1 Brazil nut every morning after he brushed his teeth. Within the first week, he noticed clearer thinking. By week 3, his libido was back, not forced, not artificial, just there, like it had been quietly waiting for permission to return. That's the thing about Brazil nuts. They're quiet healers. You don't need a bag full, just 1 a day. That single nut becomes a kind of insurance zone. Small, consistent act that tells your body, "I haven't forgotten you." So here's where things come together. Walnuts, pistachios, Brazil nuts, each powerful on its own. But when taken together, something remarkable happens. I had a patient once, Dan, 71. He'd tried everything in bits and pieces. A few walnuts 1 month, pistachios the next. Sometimes he'd eat a Brazil nut after reading an article online. But he never stuck with it. When he finally sat across from me and said, "Doc, I've tried it all, and I still don't feel right," I asked him to do just one thing: commit. Not to a major diet, not to a dozen new habits, just to 3 simple acts each day for 3 weeks. A Brazil nut in the morning, a handful of pistachios with lunch, a few walnuts in the evening. 21 days. No skipping, no second guessing. 3 weeks later, Dan walked into my office with a lightness I hadn't seen before. His face looked clearer. He moved with ease. He said, "I feel like I've arrived back in my own skin." But what struck me most was what he added. "My wife told me I'm more present." That word "present" says everything. Because this isn't just about energy or erections. It's about waking up to your life again. Being able to hold your partner, play with your grandkids, walk into a room and feel rooted in your body. It's about reconnecting with that quiet, strong part of yourself that age tried to silence. These 3 nuts support each other. Walnuts improve blood flow. Pistachios enhance function and stamina. Brazil nuts rebuild the hormonal foundation that everything else stands on. Together, they create a rhythm, a kind of biological harmony that supports a man where he needs it most, in his heart, his hormones, and his sense of self. But even this simple routine can be undone by a trap I see all too often. I call it the silent surrender. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens gradually when you start saying things like, "I guess this is just what happens when you get older." When you stop trying, when you let yourself believe that feeling tired, disconnected, or dull is somehow normal. I met a man named Bill, 69, retired plumber, salt-of-the-earth kind of guy. He came to see me after his wife nudged him, gently but persistently. "He's not himself anymore," she said. Bill shrugged when I asked how he'd been feeling. "I just figured this is my new normal," he told me. I looked him in the eye and said, "Bill, normal doesn't have to mean giving up." He didn't need an overhaul. He just needed permission to hope again, to start, to care for his body the way he cared for everyone else for all those years. So he did. He started with those 3 nuts, added walks in the evening, gave himself space to feel again. And wouldn't you know, it changed more than just his health. His wife said his laughter came back. His posture shifted. His eyes looked steadier. The biggest mistake most men make isn't about food or exercise. It's about belief. Believing that decline is inevitable, that the best years are behind you. But let me tell you something I've learned from decades of listening to men your body wants to heal. It's waiting. The question is, Are you? And that brings us to something practical. Something you can actually do starting tomorrow morning with nothing more than a small dish and a bit of intention. A daily vitality routine and overwhelming, not time-consuming, just simple, steady steps that, over time, can rebuild your foundation. Here's how I've helped hundreds of men put this into motion. First, keep it visual. Put a little jar of Brazil nuts in your bathroom. One nut a day after you brush your teeth. That's it. One small act to support your testosterone and protect your prostate. Next, keep a bag of pistachios in the kitchen, preferably unsalted. Around lunchtime, grab a handful. Not a bowl, not a mountain, just a good palmful. It'll stabilize your blood sugar, sharpen your mind, and support stamina and function. Finally, make walnuts your evening ritual. About an hour before bed, sit down, maybe with a book or the evening news, and have a small handful. They'll help repair your blood vessels overnight, calm inflammation, and nourish your heart. 3 moments: morning, noon, and night. That's the routine. I can't tell you how many men have told me, "I didn't think something so simple could matter so much." But it does, because it's not about perfection. It's about honoring the rhythm of your body and feeding it what it recognizes, what it needs, what it knows how to use. You don't have to measure, track, or calculate. Just show up, each day, quietly, steadily. And here's something else I want you to know. You're not alone in this. There are countless men your age, your background, your struggles who are making the same choice right now: to stop waiting, to stop writing themselves off, to take back a little control, one small step at a time. Maybe you've never been one to talk about health. Maybe you've spent most of your life taking care of others. Maybe you've carried burdens you've never even spoken out loud. But today, you get to do something for you. Not out of vanity, not out of fear, but out of respect for the man you still are and the life you still have to live. And if you found this helpful, if a light has gone on, even faintly, I invite you to subscribe. Not because I need another number, but because this space is here for you. A place for truth, for guidance, for reminders that you're not fading. You're evolving. The road ahead isn't about reclaiming your youth. It's about embracing your strength now, with presence, with purpose. So let me leave you with one final thought, something I tell every man who walks into my office and wonders if it's too late. What I've seen time, and again, is that age doesn't take away a man's strength. What it often takes is his permission to use it. You start holding back. You second-guess yourself. You feel like you're no longer needed in the same way you once were. Maybe your body moves slower. Maybe your hands feel weaker. Or maybe it's not physical at all. Maybe it's that soft acheth kind that doesn't come from joints or muscles, but from somewhere quieter. That's where most of the fading begins. I remember a man named Frank, 74, retired carpenter, worked with wood his whole life. His hands had calluses like bark. One afternoon, he sat across from me and said, almost under his breath, "Doc, I don't want to die while I'm still alive." It hit me like a stone. Not because of how he said it, but because of how many men had said the same thing in different ways. That's when I realized, most of the pain I've seen in aging men isn't about disease. It's about disconnection. Disconnection from their purpose, their vitality, their place in the world. But I want you to hear me now, and hear this well. You are still here. And while you're here, you still get to choose. You get to choose what kind of man you are becoming, even now. You don't need to turn the clock back. You need to turn toward yourself again. And maybe, just maybe, that starts with something as simple as 3 nuts a day. Not because they're magical, not because they'll make you 20 again, but because they are a promise. A Brazil nut in the morning is a promise to show up with strength. A handful of pistachios midday is a promise to stay present and awake. A few walnuts at night is a promise to recover, to heal, to keep going. These aren't health hacks, they're reminders. And here's what they remind you of. Your body hasn't given up on you. It's been waiting for you. It's waiting for you to care again, to get curious again, to believe just a little that there's more ahead of you than behind you. Because every time I've seen a man reclaim his vitality, It didn't start with a breakthrough. It started with a quiet decision to begin again. You don't have to announce it to the world. You don't have to prove it to anyone. You just need to show up for yourself. Today, then again tomorrow. And slowly, almost without noticing, your mind gets clearer. Your chest feels lighter. The spark returns to your eyes. And the people you love begin to feel you again. Not the tired, withdrawn version, but the one who's here. One man told me after sticking with his daily routine for a few weeks, "Doc, I feel like I'm back in my own skin again." Another said, "My wife kissed me like she used to." Another simply said, "I don't dread the mirror anymore." That's what we're talking about. Not chasing youth, but reclaiming dignity, identity, presence. And let me tell you, there's something powerful about presence in a man's later years. When he walks into a room not loud, not flashy, but grounded, quietly alive. A man who knows who he is. A man who hasn't given up. And that's you. You may not fully feel it yet. That's okay. The work isn't about feeling different in a day. It's about staying with yourself long enough to feel something again. And the beautiful truth is, small things done consistently, those 3 nuts, a short walk, a good night's sleep, can open doors you thought were closed forever. So if you've been carrying that feeling that maybe your best days are over, let me offer you something better. Your best years don't have to be behind you. They can be different, yes. Quieter, but deeper, more meaningful, more connected. Because this stage of life, it's not the end. It's the time where you finally get to tend to yourself, not as a duty, but as a devotion. And if anything I've shared with you today has spoken to that quieter place inside the part of you that still hopes, still wants to feel strong, still wants to love fully, then I invite you, begin. Just begin. Take that first step without needing to see the whole road. You've already lived through the hard parts. Now, maybe it's time to live through the honest ones. You're not too old. You're not too late. You're right on time. And if you found this message helpful, consider sharing it with someone close to you. A friend, a brother, a man who's been quiet lately. You never know who might need this more than they're letting on. And if you want to keep receiving these reflections, these calm, grounded reminders made just for men like you, subscribe. Not for the noise, but for the quiet strength it brings. And if this message touched you, perhaps, and share it quietly, as it was shared with you. Your health still matters. Your story is still being written. Let's keep you strong. One day, one choice, one breath at a time. Thank you for listening.